Hi, welcome to my video on the review of the exponential or exponent rules. If you wish to treat this review as a quiz or an assignment and you want to mark it, then find 3 blank pages. This is page 1 of 3, so you need 2 of 3 and 3 of 3 to do your answers on. And you can also, on this page, you can write down the total equals. The score is marked at a 37, so what you do is mark on each page, put the number of right that you have total up the bottom of the page, and then when you add up each of the pages at the bottom, that goes over 37. Divide 37 into this number, and that either with your pencil or with a calculator, and you'll get your decimal, and then you move your decimal 2 places to the right to get your percent. So let's start page 2 of 3. So note, pause your video, work all these answers out, and then when you're finished, press play, and you'll get each of the answers. And as you get them right, put your score here, 2 right, 1 right, etc., etc. Here we go. Write each as b to the x. That's the exponential. 1, 2, 3. So we get x cubed. Notice 1, 1, 1. You add your exponents. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. There's 5 y's, and there's 1, 1, 1, 1, 1. Add them all up, and you get 5. Put your score. Write each as b to the x. 5 is 5 to the 1. X is x to the 1. Just to illustrate that if you don't have any exponent, is understood to be a 1. Note. Complete the statement. B to the 0 equals 1. And B cannot be equal to 0. So any number raised to a power, to the exponent or power of 0 is a 1. But note, 0 to the 0, and if I use my calculator just for a second, just to illustrate it, 0 power 0, there's my power button right there, 0 power 0, notice the domain, it's not defined. Number 4, 4 to the 0, 1. Negative 3 to the 0 power, and notice the negative 3 is in a bracket, is 1. 1/2 to the 0 power is 1, and 1 plus 1 is 2. Notice the 0 is with the 7, so this is the negative of 7 to the 0, which is 1, so that's a negative 1. Note, if you had the negative of negative 7 to the 0, so that's the negative of, negative 7 to the 0 is 1, so that would be a negative 1. But notice, this is the negative of 7 to the 0. Be careful. D is what I was just talking about. This is the negative of negative 6 to the 0 power. Negative 6 to the 0 power is 1. So that answer becomes negative 1. E, I have a 9 times. That's understood to be a multiplication. So this is x squared y, all to the 0 power. So the answer is 1 for that. So 9 times 1 is 9. Provided, you have to make the assumption, x and y are not zeros. Okay, we make that assumption. Number 5, 1 to the x, 1 to any power is a 1. 1 to the 2, 1 squared, 1 to a negative, 1 to, remember I showed you that 1 to pi. So remember I did 1 to the power of pi. Let's show you. 1, clear that. 1 power button pi. That's 1 to the power of pi, and you get a 1. So 1 to any power is 1. 6, simplify each. 1 to the 6th is 1. 1 to the root 7 is 1. And 1 and 1 makes 2. And B, we have to do PEMDAS. P-E-M-D-A-S, the order of operations. We have to do the inside of our brackets first. So notice in here I got a negative 10, subtract 11. So when I subtract, double negative makes a positive. Or when you subtract, you add on the opposite, but a double negative is a positive. And that becomes negative 10 plus 11 is 1 to the 8th. And I have to simplify the inside of this, and the inside, 1 times 3 is 3, plus 2 is 5. So it's 5 over 3, and it's negative because we normally change mixed numerals to improper fractions. So the inside of the brackets are done. Now we have to do our exponent next. Cross it out. So 1 to the 8th power is 1. Okay, we have that done. Now, 1 divided by negative 5 over 3 is 1 times, and that's 3 negative 5. But I'm not putting the negative 5. I put the 5 there, but the negative never goes in the bottom. So even though I put it there, then I can transfer it to here because a positive divided by negative is still a negative. And the answer to this question is negative 3/5. Remember, 3 over negative 5, the negative does not stay in the bottom. So a positive divided by negative makes it a negative 3 over 5. Number 7a. Notice I forgot to put it in that m belongs to the set of I, and that's the set of integers. If m is even integer, then negative 1 to the m, if it's even, gives you 1. If m is odd, then a negative 1 to an odd power is negative 1. And see how many you got right. And 8, here we go. Negative 1 to 17 is odd. An even number ends in 0, 2, 4, 6, or 8. That's an odd number, so it's negative 1. 82 ends in 2. That's even, so it's 1. And let's work this out and see what we get. We're multiplying fractions, so we cancel top to bottom. We could go negative 6 over 6. We want to multiply. That gives us negative 1. Okay. Or we can cancel. 2 into 2 goes once. 2 into negative 2 goes negative 1. 3 into 3 goes once. 3 into 3 goes once. That gives us, if we put it up right here, that gives us a negative 1 over 1. So it's a negative 1 on the inside. And the square root of 25 is 5. And negative 1 to the 5th power, 5 is odd, so the answer to this problem is negative 1. Put your scores in, see what you have out of 19, put your total at the bottom. Here we go, let's continue. Number 9, write 5 squared, 5 cubed times 5 as b to the x. So that's understood to be a 1. So when we multiply exponentials with the same base, write down the base, 2 plus 3 plus 1 is 6. Simplify each as an exponent, as an exponential. That means in exponential form. No negative exponents. Don't want any negative exponents. When you multiply, you add. Keep your base, which is x, and you add, you get a 10. When you multiply here, you got an a's and b's. So that's a 1. 3 plus 1 is 4, and 2 plus 7 is 9. You got different bases, so you have to write down an a and a b. And you're dividing, your base is y, so 12, subtract 8 is 4, because when you multiply, you add your exponents. When you divide, you subtract your exponents. And the base is x over 2, x over 2, x over 2. So the base is x over 2. And when we multiply, we add, so that gives us a 9. And then we're dividing, so we subtract. So 9 subtract 6 is 3. So x over 2 cubed. Again, we're multiplying, so we add. And because we're dividing, we subtract. And e, we can't combine those. We can't add to get 17 because they're not the same bases. That's the multiplication understood to be in between these. We can't combine these because they're not the same basis. So what we have is, we have a 7, subtract 1, that's a 1 there. That gives me c to the 6th. 10 subtract 3 is f to the 7th. Because when we divide, we subtract the exponents. F we have a power of a power. So that 5 is multiplied by the 6 and is multiplied by the 3. So that's x to the 30 and y to the 15. Power of a power, they call it. And G, we can simplify the inside of this first because bed mass, we said we should do inside of our brackets. In that case, because we have the same base of x, we're dividing, so we subtract to get a 4. And we have to square it after. And when we're squaring this, so we can multiply 2 by 4. We don't square 4 to get 16. We multiply the 2 times the 4 to give us 8. Remember, it's x to the 4 times x to the 4. So we're adding to get 8. We don't square the 4 to get 16. It's not. You multiply the 2 by the 4 to get 8. And we have a negative exponent. So negative exponent is 1 over x to the 4th. It's 1 over. And how many did you get right? Put whatever you have here, and put a number out of 8 here. And the last part, simplify each. No negative exponents. Let's see. We got to do bed mass first. Bed mass or PEMDAS. Your choice. Either or, same thing. I have to do the exponent first. So the exponent is the 5 on the outside. So that gives us 5 is a power of a power. So that's a to the negative 35 and b to the negative 5. So the 5 is multiplied by the negative 7 and a negative 1. We have that done. Now we're multiplying these brackets. So we have the inside of these you didn't need to simplify. Exponent is done. Now we're multiplying, dividing, so we don't have a multiplication left. So when you multiply the a10 by the a negative 35, we add, we get a negative 25. We got the b negative 2, b negative 5, add, negative 2, negative 5 gives you a negative 7. And we're not supposed to have any negative exponents, so that's 1 over a to the 25, and that's 1 over b to the 7. Remember, that's a multiplication understood to be in between these two. And when we multiply that, we get 1 times 1 is 1. That's a to 25, b to the 7 as the final answer. These are a little bit longer, so you can give yourself credit. If you multiplied by 5, give you 1 mark. If you got these right, you give a mark each. So there's 3 marks for each of these. So part marks for as you work it part way through. And we're power of a power, so that's x to the 6, you multiply, times power of a power, you multiply, you get negative 4. And you have the exponent done, so we leave that alone. Just leave that for a second. We have to do PEMDAS, PEMDAS. We have to do, these are already done, so we're doing the exponents on the outside by multiplying, done. Now we got to multiply the top. When we multiply the top, we add. X is the base, 6. Add on negative 4 is 2. When we divide the bottom, x is the base. And we subtract, we get 10. Subtract 16 is negative 6. So that we have the multiplication division done. And now we still have to divide, because what I did with this fraction, this is a fraction here. I simplified the numerator and I simplified the denominator. Then I'll divide after. So when you're dividing here, you got a common base of x. So that's 2 subtract negative 6. Because when you divide, you subtract the bottom exponent. So that gives you x. When you subtract the negative 6, that's a double negative, or you add on the opposite. So that's 2 plus 6, which is 8. And C, we have to do PEMDAS, so we have to do the inside of these, can't do anything inside, so we will multiply the negative 4, negative 4, and negative 4, so that gives us x to the 4, negative times negative positive, y to the negative 12, and d to the 8, because we're multiplying, and x to the negative 6, can't do anything. And this is a power of a power. Only thing, that's x to the 1 there. So that's x. 3 times 1 is 3. And a negative 2 times 3 is negative 6. D to the negative 3. So the top only has an X and a Y and a D. The bottom has two X's. So when I multiply, I add. So that's -3, Y 6, D -3. So I simplify these two X's here to make it now. The top, the numerator has 1x, 1y, 1d. The bottom has 1x, 1y, 1d. So now, watch what happens. So because we're dividing, we subtract. So that's 4 subtract -3. That's y is -12 subtract -6. And the d is 8 subtract -3. So because we're dividing, we're subtracting the -3, subtracting the 6. And what happens? That becomes double negative, that becomes double negative, and that becomes, note, when you have a double negative, that's the same as adding on the opposite, so you're changing the sign. So that's a 7, and that's -6, and the D is 11. And notice that's x to the 7. This is 1 over y to the 6th. This is d to the 11. And notice x to the 7 is over 1. D to the 11 is over 1. So I have x to the 7, d to the 11, all over y to the 6. Notice the negative exponent is going down on the bottom. You don't move these because they're positives. But a good way to do it is to 1 over and treat these as fractions. And 3 answers for each of these. And now you have whatever you add up your total and put your score there, and then add the other page on. So get your get your total of each page. When you get that done, then take the first sheet, put your total over 37, take a calculator and divide 37, or take the number and say, calculator, put whatever, if I had a 32 out of 37, so you put 32 in, division 37, get a decimal, and then change it to percent by moving the 2 places to the right. That's a little review on the exponents, the unit on exponents, because they're needed to do the next unit that I have lined up on polynomials. So if you like this video, click on the like button, the subscribe button, click the notification bell because there's more videos coming. And write a comment on my video if you wish. And you may visit my math website if you haven't done already, www.mathfullyexplained.com, and find information in 3 different sections: me, my degrees, and teaching experience. The section on video tells about the teaching strategies that I'm going to use to help you learn your math. And the section on content has the topics and the number of videos on each topic that's going to be on my YouTube channel. And the black font is what I have completed already, and the red font is what I will be doing in the near future. Thank you very much. Bye-bye.